What's good, everybody? Listen, it was not my intention to disturb you all on this lovely Friday as we head into the weekend and get our lives together after what has been probably a trying week for most people, what has been an exhaustive week for most people. And I'm just talking about real life. I'm not even addressing what's in the news cycle right now, though we'll get to that in a moment. So I had to call this emergency session, this emergency politics live, because the news that have come across our feeds in the last 24 to 36 hours. I'm going to just give it that much. Even for today's climate, this has been a little much. This has been a lot to handle. And I'll just say there were 3 or 4 stories in particular that once they reached the atmosphere, I had to say, that's just enough internet for today. That's just enough. This is, I had to go, I had to go in a prayer closet because there is only so much the brain can process in our current political atmosphere. There's only so much. And before I sort of get into it real quick, let me just remind you guys that are joining me now. Thank you for joining me on this Friday. Hopefully y'all somewhere kicking back. You're at home, you relaxing. Hopefully you got a nice little drink you done poured. Hell, I should have got one just to even have this conversation. And thank you for your, liking, subscribing, and a reminder. You see it right there at the bottom of your screen. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already on the way out. I really appreciate the support. But what we have had to experience in our psychosis these last, again, 24 to 36 hours, what are we doing, y'all? What we doing? Let me just get right into it. Okay, so as you all know, the Epstein estate released or leaked some emails to the Democratic Party about Jeffrey Epstein and the Epstein files. And let me just say before we get into this, it's like this is a very serious case that has, victims, that has caused deep, deep trauma. So, this is very serious business. We're talking about child trafficking, pedophilia, some of the worst crimes that can be committed against anybody. But then the story, of course, took a turn. It took a turn because in this vat of emails, there's like 20,000 pages of these documents that people are pouring through. And I ain't gonna lie, I ain't had that kind of time to be going through some 20,000 emails. But naturally, everybody focused on one particular email exchange that was between Mark Epstein and I don't remember all the characters. And so frankly, it just wasn't on the bingo card of things I thought would be put out there as it relates to this case and this estate and these files. So let's just go ahead and get into it. No need to give any more of a filibuster than I already have. So that wasn't the email. Sorry, y'all. Here is the email. Now, maybe you all can't see on your screen right there what that email says. But this, as I said, is an email that has Jeffrey Epstein and also Mark Epstein. And they're going back and forth. And in the middle of this exchange, what I have circled, they're referencing Donald Trump. And Mark Epstein emails, or Jeffrey, is this Mark? Yeah, I think it's Mark. I'm reading this as well. I think it's Mark Epstein emails and says to Jeffrey Epstein, subject matter Donald Trump, ask him if Putin has the photos of Trump blowing Bubba. Now, I don't know who Bubba is. I mean, I know who people think they know who Bubba is. But, I did not expect this story to take on the life that it is taking on. Now, let me just say let's get the journalism out of the way. Is we do not know. There have been some reports about who Bubba is, right? But we don't know the identity of Bubba. We don't know. This is all allegations. Allegedly, this is what this is. All right, allegedly. But naturally, the internet gonna internet, and they gonna internet all day long. And so the internet, which knows that there is a former president by the name of William Jefferson Clinton, who also goes by the nickname of Bubba. And so now you have the internet run amok because people are saying, or Streets is talking, and Streets is saying that, yes, that is Bill Clinton that they're referring to. And next thing you know, it's open season on the Donald Trump and Bill Clinton jokes. And I'm not going to laugh because deep down, I'm a child. And, you know, there are some of them that have been quite funny. And it just reminds me of the fact that we can't take shit serious. Nothing can be taken serious. Okay. And especially as it relates to Black people, who I am convinced have the best sense of humor on earth. All right. And true to form, a lot of people, Black, white, whoever, have run away with this. So let's get to how, because naturally when something like this hits the atmosphere, naturally the internet handles this also responsibly, as they often do. But you know damn well that they didn't. Exhibit A. I'm going to drain the swamp, Bill Clinton. I mean, guys, can we, what are we, I can't. Then we have, and this, you know, I spend a lot of time on Threads now. Don't fool with X as much for obvious reasons. This is on Threads. If Clinton got impeached for, you can read that there, can Trump get impeached for giving it? Internet, I need you to go to your room. You're not allowed to have dinner. No TV, no video games. You on punishment. You on punishment for at least, you know what? We ain't gonna even have a punishment end date. You just on punishment right now. It's like probably one of the, I didn't save it or, you know, put it up for you all, but you guys can find it. Why y'all do they have a picture of Donald Trump with Nancy Reagan talking about two goats? Why are they referring to Donald Trump as the throatus goatus POTUS? What? Y'all ain't got no sense. Y'all play too much. That's y'all problem. Y'all play too much. I mean, that's why I was in the prayer closet dealing with y'all. Here we got this. This was on my Threads account. My 17-year-old came home from school today and asked me if Trump gave Clinton a blowy, and I was wholly unprepared for that. Well, ma'am, Cindy, I have been unprepared of all the things that I have seen on the internet as related to this story, to this allegation, to this rumor. Let me be very clear. I mean, every time I try to get out, to quote Al Pacino, y'all pull me back in. I'm not supposed to be here talking about this on a Friday. Not at all. This is not supposed to be my life. But I just had to bring it to the community to know that, is this where we are right now? Is this where we are? They got, it's the names. Throatus, goatus, POTUS. Like, y'all out here really calling the 47th president the throat goat. Y'all really doing this right now. Y'all got the meme with, y'all replace Brandy and the boy is mine. And y'all done put Donald and Hillary and put Bill Clinton in the middle. Y'all are some children. Talking about they gonna expect Bill Clinton to hold a press conference talking about, I ain't had sexual relations with that man Donald J. Trump, and then he gonna weaken the camera. I saw that one too. I done seen it all. What? But I thought about this, and to take it slightly serious for a moment, is that like we know right now is a stressful time for a lot of people, and we are inundated every dang on day with catastrophic news all the time. The country is completely on fire. It is on fire. And so because of that, we are grasping for moments of levity that we can remind ourselves that we are not in a never-ending shit show. But never in my wildest dreams did I expect, as we search for these moments of levity and even search for these moments of community, I never expected this to take the turn that it is taken. It is like I'm just sitting here blinking rapidly, like the man in the meme, like, yeah. But I get it, because every day that we are reminded that we really in the matrix. I'm not sure which pill we took, the red one or the blue one, but we living in the matrix. That's the only thing that I can determine. Now, I can't even say that was in the last 24 to 36 hours, that was the most salacious thing to learn or to be alleged against someone in a world leadership position. Because then there was this particular story that I mean, another one where I just had to take the deepest of Negro sighs and just evaluate just where we are as humanity. Like where are we right now? What just checking in with everybody and just to say like what is going on? What's our mentals like? It was this story. Newsweek. Hitler had sexual disorder, DNA analysis reveals. All right, so already I was bracing myself. Like, I don't know where this is going. And then I read the story. Okay, I'm going to just scroll through it real quick, read you guys the opening couple paragraphs. A new DNA analysis has shed light on Adolf Hitler's medical history, indicating that the dictator may have suffered from a sexual disorder linked to hormonal irregularities. The findings are the focus of a forthcoming Channel 4 documentary, Hitler's DNA, Blueprint of a Dictator, which reports that genetic evidence points to Hitler having Kallmann syndrome. I'm assuming that's what it was called. All right. Kallmann syndrome. Never heard of it. So I keep scrolling. All right. It comes after a medical report from 1923 unearthed in 2015 confirmed that Hitler had an undescended testicle. Again, information I could have gone my whole life never having known. Never. All right. According to researchers, continuing this scroll, his newly identified genetic condition would likely have disrupted normal testosterone production, potentially contributing to sexual underdevelopment. Scientists estimate that this could have given him about a 1 in 10 chance of having a micro penis. An idea consistent with the accounts from World War I, suggesting he was ridiculed over the size of his genitals. Again, I could have gone my whole life not knowing that. So the reason that Hitler, maybe it's not the sole reason, like clearly he was a bigot, he was an awful person, but you mean to tell me that he persecuted and murdered millions of people because that man had one of these? So the world had to pay because you out here living style. I mean, you know, you're not supposed to necessarily pray in this way, but like, I mean, really, really, God, you couldn't have just gave him a couple inches, so maybe the whole world doesn't suffer. You know, just maybe give him a solid 5. A solid 5. And perhaps millions of lives are spared. Now, of course, a lot of people, you know, because people look at dictators and they always say that dictators and who are, you know, men in these powerful positions and they behave terribly, that it is a result of an inadequacy in some department, be it height, apparently be it package size. Apparently, you know, a lot of people link certain male aggressive and violent behavior to those things. And so to find out and to read that, you know, the Adolf Hitler, that was his reality. Again, I could have gone my whole life. That was involuntary knowledge I didn't really need to have in my brain. You know, it's just, did we need to know that? Science, because science. And now there's a whole documentary that'll be coming out soon about his entire, you know, genetic and DNA profile. So we find out he got a little chubbo. And millions had to die because he had a little chubbo. That's where we are. I don't even know what to do with that information. See, y'all got jokes in the chat. How are you processing this information between throat goatus and now peenie weenie? Like, if you're a history teacher right now, I need to know what is going on in your mind. Like, how will you explain this time that we are living in? I gotta go. I just gotta know. How will you explain to the young people this information? Put this entire time in context. Like, there's just no words. There are just no words. And, you know, on this Friday, as I said, it was, it was not my intention to disrupt your Friday with these goings on, but nevertheless, we're here. And then there was one more I had to throw in the mix, and this one is a little bit of a different tone than the 2 previous stories I just talked about. Now, y'all remember that it wasn't too long ago that the commentator Megyn Kelly had a lot to say about me because she did not like the commentary that I had about Charlie Kirk. So, in case you forgot what Megyn Kelly said about me, this is maybe a month and some change. Charlie's murder, there was an incredible amount of angry discourse from the right, blaming the Democrats, blaming liberals, saying, you're the reason this happened. Only to find out, surprise, 22-year-old white dude, love guns, raised by 2 parents, lived in a good home, dad is a minister, also a sheriff. Didn't check any of them boxes y'all thought he would check, did he?
Okay. First of all, a coat of mascara would be your friend. I'm just going to tell this to you, woman to woman on television. You need a little work, and you should have them back off the camera a little bit because you are not attractive enough to have that extreme close up. Push away your laptop, Jemele, and add a filter or 2. Honestly, like, we actually don't use any on this show because I do put on makeup so I look presentable, but you need work because you can't both be ugly on the outside and the inside. You need to choose one.
Oh, you can't be both ugly on the outside and in the inside because you need to choose one. Well, you guys, if you follow me and you can go back and reference it, I had some very strong words about Megyn Kelly. I've been called a lot of things. Ugly is not one of them. But it was interesting because she said that I was ugly inside and out, meaning that she's coming from my character, saying I'm a terrible person and all that, right? I'm a lot of things. I'm not perfect. I certainly have made my share of mistakes. I've made plenty of them. Okay. I try as best I can to be a person with character and integrity and all those things that matter. And again, I said I'm not perfect. But you know what? Of all the things on my shortcomings, on my worst days that I've had, you know what I've never done is I have never said something like this, which Megyn Kelly said on her show the other day.
Them or having paid for sex with them when they were barely legal or otherwise. It just hasn't happened.
Yeah, in fact, at that same press conference, the lawyer for a group of the women actually said Jeffrey Epstein would prey upon women when they were underage, true and disgusting and horrible. And then the lawyer said, and when they came of age and he was no longer interested in them, he would then pass them on. So there was no pedophilia ring. There was a pedophile who did unspeakable things to vulnerable girls. And then they would age out of Jeffrey Epstein's pedophilic interests, at which point he would then start to pass them around to his friends, meaning that there were not actual crimes committed by anybody beyond. There's no pedophile ring. There's a pedophile and then a bunch of friends who were getting massages at that point from women who were no longer underage. This is from the lawyer at that press conference. So I think that kind of dispels a lot of the salaciousness of the story. People are like, where is the justice for the victims? The justice is one of the people who did unspeakable things to them died in prison, and the other one is still in prison. So they got their justice. And the whole ring idea, I think, has been wildly blown out of proportion for these political reasons.
I don't know about ring.
Now, if you find yourself arguing on behalf or in defense of pedophilia, you might need to check. You might need to, as they say, you need to go see that lady. You need to go see that lady, Megyn Kelly. You have a 14-year-old daughter. And you really sat up there and said it with your whole chest that, 8-year-olds, that's a different kind of sexual abuse than somebody who's 14 or 15. I'm sorry, what? They're sliding scales of pedophilia. They're not all victims. And Batia, who I actually know a little bit, I don't profess to know her well. That is the woman who was talking about they got their justice. As if there's an end date on people who have been traumatized by this sort of thing, as if there's an end date to their pain. All right. And Bati, I know a little bit because I've done a couple of CNN panels with her, and it's just disappointing to see the callousness in which they would sort of belittle what these victims have gone through. Jeffrey Epstein is no longer alive. And that is what it is. And there's obviously been a ton of speculation about, the manner in which he died. And given the level of information that he had on some very powerful people, people have often speculated that death, it was considered a suicide, doesn't quite pass the smell test. And his co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell, she is in prison. But she's also in a very cushy prison thanks to Donald Trump's Justice Department, which strangely gave her, when her legal team let it be known that she was willing to talk and share what she knew, which was a bat signal for, I'm going to tell you what I know about you and what I got on you, and let's see how we can negotiate and you can make my life easier. And she is now, instead of being in harsher conditions, she is now basically in the Ritz-Carlton Fed prison, thanks to Donald Trump. And one has to ask themselves, putting all these dots together, if Donald Trump is truly is as innocent as he says, he is surely behaving like a guilty man, because he has said today that he wants Attorney General Pam Bondi to investigate Bill Clinton, who we just talked about. He wants him to investigate Bill Clinton and a bunch of other names, because he's trying to shift the focus off him, because in these emails, Donald Trump is all over the place. And we've seen enough pictures that are not doctored to know that him and Jeffrey Epstein was friends. Now, naturally, being friends with somebody, even when they do really messed up things, does not mean that you were someone who was in on the plot. But can anybody say, would anybody bet a paycheck, a 401k, a pinky toe on Donald Trump not being involved deeper in the Epstein situation than what he has led on? Any of y'all willing to put it on the line? Hell no. Especially with somebody who has numerous examples of being a chronic liar, who's also a convicted felon, might I add you. And so getting back to this discussion that Megyn Kelly and Batia, who is a personality, a host, I believe, on News Nation, I think it is. So getting back to their discussion, and what you're going to see now, and you've probably seen it as there's been more and more leaked information about these Epstein files, is that the goalpost is going to start moving. You know, Kash Patel, who prior to becoming the director of FBI, this pains me to even say this, he was a social media influencer, a right-wing conservative social influencer, and now he's leading the FBI. How convenient that suddenly when he becomes Mr. FBI, then he just says, oh, you know what? There was no conspiracy. Jeffrey Epstein completely died by exactly what they said. Nothing to see here, folks. Move along. But see, now the jig is up. And I think people on both sides of the aisle realize that this ain't passing no smell test, no smoke test, nothing. There's way too much smoke here. They know it's a fire. So these efforts by right-wing media, by Donald Trump and his administration to start moving the goalposts is not going to work. The people can see you. You playing in their face and they know it. J.D. Vance, who was Mr. Release the Files, is suddenly like, well, see what had happened was that should be on the slant. That's suddenly J.D. Vance all of a sudden when it comes to the Epstein files. And so it is not surprising that now the conversation has become, oh, but the victims got their justice. Oh, but an 8-year-old versus a 15-year-old. I mean, that's where we are right now, where we're having discussions about sliding scales of pedophilia. And in case people don't need to, in case people need to know this, 15 is still underage. Megyn Kelly talking about barely legal girls. No, there's no barely legal. They're not legal. There's a lot of states, and even if they were, in a lot of states, 16 is the age of consent. 16 ain't right, though. Right? And so all of these people sitting up here trying to justify or minimize what has happened and a cover-up that we're seeing in real time really ought to be ashamed of themselves. Actually, the problem is that language doesn't even do it enough justice, because that's part of the problem, is that they're not ashamed of themselves, which is why they keep saying the dumb shit that they do. And so, again, as it relates to Megyn Kelly, is whatever person she may think that I am, she don't even know me, and I certainly don't know her. But I do know you ain't gonna see me on nobody's airwaves, and certainly not on anything with my name on it, trying to debate the scales of pedophilia. If we are not a country that can't all agree that pedophilia is wrong, then what are we doing? There's certain lines in the sand and boundaries we all got to be like, you know what? We all agree that is egregious and wrong and horrible. But she, can't really find it in herself to do that. And I just don't know personally how and she, she's trying to hide behind the fact that somebody within the administration or somebody that she knows that is close to the situation said, well, oh, it wasn't really this, it was this. Like, why would you even repeat that on air to try to justify and minimize what this situation is? Like, what? It's just got to be certain lines of decency that we should all be against. And I shouldn't be surprised, because I would expect a piece of shit person to say shitty things, and that's Megyn Kelly. But remember, I'm the ugly one, inside and out. Remember that. So yeah, I just felt like I needed a little emergency community right quick. So I thank you all for joining me here on this emergency edition of Politics Live. It's just too much foolishness going out there right now, guys. I'm going to try to empty all this out of my brain. Watch some NBA tonight. My Pistons come on tonight. They play the 76ers. We got some good college football coming up this weekend. Some great NFL action. So I'm excited about that. I'm a 49ers fan. Really excited about Brock Purdy coming back and starting again for my 49ers. My husband, who's a Lions fan, he's super excited about Lions Eagles. And so there's a lot to hopefully look forward to this weekend that will get our minds off this foolishness that we are living in. And so I appreciate y'all hanging with me on this Friday. Grab yourself a cocktail. If you are somebody who doesn't drink, damn it, give yourself a double shot of cranberry juice, okay? Because it's been that kind of week for a lot of us. And again, thank you for your support, for subscribing to this channel. I will continue to react to all the foolishness. And, truly, I could react to something every hour on the hour, because that's like kind of the weird cycle. I'm afraid to end this live, because God knows what other story is waiting on the other side of it. And as far as this story goes with, Bubba, because that's what he was called in the in the Epstein emails. All right. Bubba and Donald, you a wild boy, DT. You a wild boy, DJT. All right. I tell you, what? Because y'all think too highly of me, I ain't gonna say. I'm not gonna say the joke that came to my mind. You know what? That is proof to me that the Lord is working in my life. That is proof to me, because the Holy Spirit just saved me from myself. All right. Just save me from myself. Anyway, appreciate y'all hanging out with me. Y'all enjoy the weekend. I'll check back in with y'all next week, because there'll be plenty to talk about on Politics Live. Be easy.